On 5 News, the Prime Minister and the President. Theresa May's on her way to America, saying she will renew the special relationship, just as he tells the world it's OK to fight terror with torture.
As far as I'm concerned, we have to fight fire with fire.
Also still at school, but caring for their parents. The reality of daily life for thousands of children.
I mean, it's hard because I'm constantly always tired and I'm always feeling weak, but I just have to push through because, you know, life's not easy, really, is it?
Born 16 weeks early, weighing just 1 pound and 6 ounces, the little girl who's defied all the odds.
She is just an absolute miracle to us. She makes me so proud every single day when I look at her.
And blasting off again, why Tim Peake is going back to space. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. The Prime Minister is about to land in the United States, where she'll become the first world leader to meet Donald Trump since he became president. Theresa May's mission is to strengthen the much-heralded special relationship between Britain and America and to forge new trade deals in the wake of Brexit. But she's also been urged not to hold back on the latest controversy surrounding Mr Trump after he backed the use of a technique widely seen as torture. Julian Drucker has the details.
Mrs May goes to Washington, the first world leader to have a White House one-to-one with the brand new president. They'll talk trade and so much more. This morning, she started her transatlantic trip. Her mission, to embolden the so-called special relationship. Tonight in Philadelphia, she'll tell Republican leaders and Mr Trump that the UK must, quote, build relationships with old friends.
This is the Oval Office.
But new enemies were the focus in his first TV interview as president. His plan for dealing with the self-styled Islamic State is one of the most controversial things ever said by a commander-in-chief.
When they're chopping off the heads of our people and other people, when they're chopping off the heads of people because they happen to be a Christian in the Middle East, when ISIS is doing things that nobody has ever heard of since medieval times, would I feel strongly about waterboarding? As far as I'm concerned, we have to fight fire with fire.
In response to those comments, the Foreign Secretary stressed Washington hasn't as yet changed its policy on torture.
I think we have to be very careful with this. I don't think we've seen any policy changes, official policy changes or policy pronouncements.
If this row causes friction between Theresa May and Donald Trump, it won't be the first time. December 2015, and the then Home Secretary had this to say.
We all agree that the remarks that Donald Trump made in relation to Muslims were divisive, they were unhelpful, they were wrong.
The President has already hinted he wishes to emulate the special relationships of the past. But in a rapidly transforming world, who needs who the most?
The special relationship has always been something that Britain thinks about and pays heed to a lot more than America does. But Donald Trump will need partners and he will need friends, and Britain is the obvious and really the only obvious partner for him right now in the context of Europe and his broader strategy.
What does Theresa May give the billionaire who has everything? A traditional two-handed Scottish drinking cup known as a quaich, just like this one. But the special gift of the special relationship may not quite compare with the experience of a first presidential trip today on Air Force One. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
Across the UK, today and every day, hundreds of thousands of children or young people perform a vital role. Looking after a sick or disabled relative can be almost like a full-time job, and yet most, of course, are trying to balance it with their education, and it's not easy. Official figures suggest that nearly 250,000 people under the age of 19 provide regular care for someone. And some think that's just the tip of the iceberg. One charity, the Carers Trust, estimates that 1 in every 12 secondary school pupils are carers. Not surprisingly, it affects their education. At least 13,000 of them are thought to be providing care for more than 50 hours a week. That's on top of their studies. While young carers miss, on average, 10 weeks of school every year. Ruth Liptrot has been to meet one teenage girl who's spent most of her life looking after her mum while striving to achieve her own ambitions.
It's a challenge for most 14-year-olds to get out of the door in the morning for school, but for Shamoy it's even trickier. That's because her mum, Aretha, has chronic pain syndrome and Shamoy is her main carer.
Do laundry, wash up, clean the house, help mum around the house, get mum her medication, cook, help with shopping. And especially since I've got school in the morning, sometimes I have to wake up early just to make sure she's okay and stuff like that.
It's a lot for anyone to manage, let alone a teenager, but somehow she is managing to keep up with her schoolwork and is doing well academically. But even someone as hard-working as Shamoy gets overwhelmed at times.
It's hard because I'm constantly always tired and I'm always feeling weak, but I just have to push through because, you know, life's not easy, really, is it? If you're like in my year or like in year 11 or something like that, it's going to be especially hard because you've got GCSEs coming up and you're expected to do well. And it's just like, oh yeah, no pressure. Like, you want to do well, but then you've got so much on your hands, like you don't know what to do.
So how does her mum feel about their situation?
Sometimes that responsibility can take her away from being herself being like a teenager, you know, and that's the fear. I don't want her to stop being a teenager just because she has to, you know, tend to me at times, you know, because that makes you feel guilty. And when I feel guilty, it just put me in that stress mode. And when the stress come on, then the pain come on. So it's a cycle.
But who is Shamoy when she's not looking after her mum? Well, she loves music and would love to follow a career in that, or, unsurprisingly, in one of the caring professions. But there's no question that her situation has made her older than her years.
I think that because of my mum's illness and stuff, I've become more understanding about people, not just my mum, but people in general. Like, I'm not going to ever judge someone by how they look, because you don't know what's going on in their life. Like, you don't know what they're going through.
Shamoy is clearly someone with the potential to do really, really well at whatever she sets her mind to. Right now, though, her priority is taking care of her mum.
Which she does extraordinarily well, doesn't she, Ruth? I mean, is there any help for people like Shamoy and Aretha?
Well, as we've seen, there are thousands of children in exactly her position, some of them in more difficult situations, some of them a lot younger, children as young as 5 having to step up and take responsibility. Now, young carers do have a right to an assessment of need, and that means that the local authority is responsible for understanding what caring responsibilities they've got and the impact it has on them. But if they're still struggling, here's what they should do.
What we'd say to them is try to reach out to somebody you think you can trust, maybe someone at school, a teacher or somebody else who works there. Your GP, if you feel you can talk to them, that would be a great place as well. But there's also lots of charities that support young carers, so they could come to carers.org, our website, and put their postcode in and find where their local carer centre is.
So the message is that they shouldn't have to feel that they're struggling alone. They should talk to somebody. And if they do need more information about who they can talk to, they should go onto Facebook, search for our Channel 5 news page, and all the information that they need will be there.
All right, Ruth, thank you. A violent paedophile who hid one of his victims in a hole in the wall while police were visiting has been convicted of a string of sex offences. Michael Dunn was found guilty of charges including 10 rapes involving 4 women and girls. He made a cavity behind his fridge and hid one young girl from officers at least 8 times. The number of suicides, assaults and incidents of self-harm in prison has reached a record high. Last year, a death took place almost every day in jails in England and Wales, as well as nearly 70 assaults. And the comedian Rory McGrath has admitted to stalking a married woman for more than a year. The 60-year-old changed his plea on the first day of his trial. The court heard after they'd broken off an affair, he sent her texts and followed her in the street and wrote letters to her husband. Francesca Bradley Curran is a living miracle. She was born 4 months premature, and in fact, if she'd arrived 2 days earlier, it would have been before the 24-week abortion limit, and doctors said it would have been treated as a miscarriage. Through her first agonising few weeks, she suffered meningitis, sepsis, 2 collapsed lungs, kidney problems, and had 15 blood transfusions. But as Peter Lane found out, she's battled through to reach 9 months old, happy and healthy.
This picture says it all. Francesca was tiny. The hands you can see are her dad's, reaching into the hospital incubator. A baby born 4 months early. Her family told she probably wouldn't make it. Well, look at Francesca today as those same hands tickle the happy baby now safely at home, a world away from those first weeks.
I was actually scared to touch her.
Yeah.
We was warned that because her skin was so premature, if you stroked her or you tried to tickle her or anything like that, it would hurt her. We got told to take it hour by hour, day by day, week by week.
Timing did matter. If Francesca had arrived just 2 days earlier, the abortion cut-off point means doctors wouldn't have been obliged to intervene. But medical staff and Francesca herself worked wonders. She's come through meningitis, blood poisoning, collapsed lungs, kidney problems, blood transfusions and laser eye surgery, and is now perfectly fit and healthy.
She's just fantastic. She is just an absolute miracle to us. She makes me so proud every single day when I look at her. And I forget how little she was until I look back at pictures. And I didn't think I'd be sat here now with her the way she is. It is just an absolute miracle.
The family have made a memory board of some of the life-saving equipment from hospital and Francesca's first clothes. And for Mum, tattoos of her daughter's tiny hand and footprints, a lasting reminder of what they've all been through.
She's just amazing. I get up every morning and look at her in the cot and the big gummy smile at me and I just think, wow.
Before the whole experience, I don't think I was a crier. I think I've cried more since she's been born than I have done the rest of my life.
She may have raced into the world weighing just £1 6 ounces, but Francesca has put all that drama well and truly behind her. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Coming up on 5 News. More than 70 years on, the campaign for the last surviving British dam buster to be knighted. And heading back to the International Space Station, we speak to Tim Peake. We'll see you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. The government has taken the next step towards taking Britain out of the European Union today. It's published draft legislation that will give ministers permission to trigger Article 50, and MPs will have 3 days to debate that bill next week. So what would you want your MP to raise? Well, the Hampshire town of Basingstoke mirrored the national vote, falling 52% in favour of leaving to 48% in favour of remaining. Dominic Reynolds went there to ask people.
It may be about to begin, so what should Brexit mean? The people in this town had their finger right on the national pulse back in June, so let's take a seat on the Basingstoke Brexit sofa. Janet's already told her MP she wants her to vote Brexit through. She and her friend Brenda have 10 grandchildren between them. They want Britain's future to feel more like its past.
How it used to be, I don't know how many years ago. But like you didn't have to wait 4 weeks for a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
You didn't have to
and
wait.
And you wasn't controlled by Brussels. Being told you can't have mushy peas and you can't have all sorts of things.
Do you think Brexit will make it how it used to be?
No, probably not.
Step forward Dennis and Fabiola. Born in different parts of the Commonwealth, Cameroon and Mauritius, they voted different ways in June. Now Dennis is worried that without very good trade deals, Britain will struggle to compete with global giants like China.
China producing more than even Britain, you know, when Britain have to go out of the EU and have to face these people, these countries.
You sound like you're nodding like you've heard these arguments before.
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
argue about this a lot.
Yes, EU, it's like a label. It's like, yes, we are EU, we are going to do things amongst themselves. It's not opening the doors to other people. Well, global market is definitely...
It's definitely... I should leave you guys on the sofa to fight this one out. Chris and Rachel were disappointed Britain's Leave vote didn't lower house prices. 6 months later, they're concerned it'll narrow little Phoebe's horizons. She's 5 months old.
After these negotiations are all done, 2 years, what kind of Britain do you hope that Phoebe's going to inherit?
I just want to make sure that everybody's working together and that all our options are open. I don't want her to be restricted and to become very closed in her views. I want it to remain open.
That's the view from our sofa in Basingstoke, but it's over to Westminster now to see how many opinions from this little version of Britain end up part of our Brexit future. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News in Basingstoke.
The UK's economy has continued to defy predictions of doom and gloom in the wake of the Brexit vote. In the last quarter, GDP was up 0.6%, largely thanks to a strong performance by the service sector. The Chancellor says it shows the economy is strong and that'll stay strong after Article 50 is triggered.
As we get into the Brexit negotiations and the shape of Britain's future relationship with the European Union becomes clearer, I'm confident as well that business confidence and business investment will recover.
A petition with more than 200,000 signatures has been delivered to Downing Street, calling for the last surviving British dam buster to be knighted. George Johnson, known as Johnny, was in charge of aiming the bouncing bombs at their targets during the daring raids on Hitler's Germany in 1943. Now aged 95, he says he's amazed by the support he's got, but insists the honour wouldn't just be for him. Here's Simon Weiger.
The last of the dam busters. Johnny Johnson doesn't want an honour for himself, but for all his mates.
There is so little recognition of that loss of lost life from Bomber Command during the war. I don't know of any other military unit, single unit, that had as many losses.
The bouncing bomb of the dam busters is part of British folklore, but actual recognition has taken longer. Today, Carol Vorderman and former RAF navigator John Nichol delivered a petition to Number 10 asking for a knighthood for Squadron Leader Johnson. It's reached almost 250,000 signatures.
I've been involved with Royal Air Force Charities for a long time, and we started our walk at the Bomber Command Memorial. I had a lot to do with the fundraising for that, and I learned during that time the significance of public displays, really, of the amount of respect that the public have for those who fought in Bomber Command. You had about a 50% chance of dying by the end of the war, and yet still they volunteered. That's how brave they were, the bravest of the brave.
No dam buster has ever been knighted. Last year, Johnny Johnson was passed over.
He's such a modest person, but the joy I know it will bring to not only him, but also to the remaining veterans and their families, it's a symbolic mark of respect for them.
The hope to be able to ask, if this comes to anything, to ask, if necessary, Her Majesty, if I may be permitted to dedicate that to the memory of the 55,573 Bomber Command people that gave their lives in the service of their countries.
Churchill hailed the dam busters' unparalleled devastation. Today, his former home was the endpoint for their final campaign. Simon Weiger, 5 News.
From a war hero to a hero of the modern age, Major Tim Peake captured the imagination of millions when he spent 6 months on board the International Space Station, performing, among other things, the first ever spacewalk by a British astronaut. Well, today he's revealed he's going back. Minnie Stevenson went to ask him why and what Mrs. Peake makes of it.
Back on planet Earth today, British astronaut Tim Peake, along with an entourage of fans, was reunited for the first time with the spacecraft which carried him to his now historic mission.
And liftoff.
As it was announced, he'll now return to space. But before he does, his next mission, not space, but Stevenage, to open this new space centre, inspiring the next generation of superstar astronauts. As Tim told me the reason why he's returning to space.
I imagine it's incredibly cool.
It is incredibly cool. Space is also at the forefront of technology and exploration and pushing boundaries. And it's got an incredibly exciting future. We're finding space is handing over slowly to commercial companies. So we're going to have commercial companies delivering astronauts to the International Space Station.
Of course, no one can accuse the astronaut of not keeping busy on his last mission. Being in space was no excuse to not take part in the London Marathon.
Congratulations to the incredible Adele. She's taken the world by storm.
He even presented Adele with a Brit Award, and you're never too old, it turns out, to be chased by a fellow astronaut in a gorilla suit. But today, Tim said it would be back to business.
What would you invent to make your life a bit easier in space? Is there anything?
A propulsion system that can get you to Mars in about 2 weeks would be wonderful.
So just an express route?
Yeah.
While they say you should never meet your heroes, we had to ask Tim's fans what it was like to meet theirs.
Did it make you want to go to space? Tell me.
I think it would be fun to go to space, but I do have a lot of other things I want to do as well.
OK, so you're quite busy.
Yeah, I wanted to be a gymnast, but also now that I've seen him and he's talked about stuff in space, it's sort of about I want to be an astronaut as well.
Be very uncomfortable and heavy.
What, wearing all the astronaut gear?
Yeah.
So you're going to stick to this, which is lovely, actually.
As for his next mission, it's all top secret at the moment. But first things first, has he got the green light from his wife?
Do you have to run it all past Mrs. Peake, you know, when you're about to do it? Because you're not just popping, you know, for the next town. You're going to, you know, space.
Absolutely, yes.
Is that an easy thing to get past, or do you have to sort of pick the moment?
No, I have to pick the moment.
It's thought Tim's next trip to space will not be before 2019. Plenty of time then to plan the second trip of a lifetime. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
And that's it for now. I'm going to be back with you at 6:30 with 5 News tonight. We're going to have much more on that campaign to honour Britain's last remaining dam buster, hearing lots more from Carol Vorderman, who's leading the fight for recognition of George Johnny Johnson's bravery, about why she got involved. And if you're trying to get fit in the new year, listen to this man, 97-year-old Charles Eugster. He's going to be with me to tell us how age is no barrier to fitness, and he should know. Claire Nazir has the weather next. I'll see you again at 6:30. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.